Some football players don't have to be the fastest or the strongest guy to be remembered. They make their mark just by being clutch, by scoring huge goals and coming through when their team desperately needs them the most. Whether it was a Champions League final or a league match, you could always count on this striker to find the back of the net and provide a much-needed boost. And he always did it in the most charismatic style, like the sublime header he scored to help Chelsea win their first Champions League title ever. These types of players turn football into a true spectacle, something that inspires fans everywhere, both young and old. Today, we are going to talk about a star who defined an era and a generation, and became a player that other players and fans, especially from his continent, look up to. His name? Didier Drogba.
They show us the way to behave when you're a Chelsea player. Never give up until the end.
Drogba's ultimate clutch moment didn't come until later in his career in 2012, the last match he played for Chelsea during his first tenure at the club. Chelsea finished an underwhelming 6th in the Premier League final that season, but they upset heavily favored Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final, with Drogba scoring the lone goal in the first leg. After they hung on for dear life in the second leg and disposed of the Catalans, Chelsea was in the final against German giants Bayern Munich. Chelsea would find themselves trailing Bayern late, and the hopes of Chelsea faithful seemed dashed, and their improbable Cinderella run was coming to a disappointing end. And out of nowhere, as any clutch player should, stepped up the man himself. Yes, you guessed right, Didier Drogba. His well-placed header from a Juan Mata corner kick beat goalkeeper Manuel Neuer and found its way into the net. He had done it again. Drogba had come up with the most clutch equalizer, and the iconic knee slide celebration that followed would live immortal in the hearts of every Chelsea fan. Once the game went to penalty shootouts, he stepped up again to score the winning penalty and win Chelsea their first ever Champions League title. That's what clutch players do. They come up big in moments and make improbable dreams a reality.
Well, as possibly bleak as this. Drogba!
You'll never find legends as big as Didier Drogba, and there aren't many players that were as clutch as he was. His longtime manager Jose Mourinho described him as the ultimate big game player, while his Chelsea teammate Frank Lampard maintained that Drogba is the player you want on your team when it matters most. Drogba played a total of 684 games throughout his career and scored a very impressive 305 goals. He's a 2-time African Player of the Year, a 2-time EPL Golden Boot winner, and a Premier League Hall of Famer. Didier Drogba is one of the greatest strikers to have ever played the game. But Didier Drogba had a very humble beginning to his football career, with one fact that separates him from pretty much any other footballer who makes it to the big show. But more on that in a minute. Drogba, like most other kids, started playing football on the streets at a very young age. He would split time between his native Ivory Coast and France, but would eventually settle in France to live with his uncle. Surprisingly, he was never part of a youth academy, which is almost unheard of for someone who would go on to become a professional. That probably delayed his development, but the youngster persisted and persevered. Drogba first became part of organized football when he joined a semi-professional club in France, and his career did not take off until he joined Ligue 2 side Le Mans in 1999. There, Drogba quickly turned into an important first-team player, scoring 7 times in 30 appearances in his first season. However, a reoccurring injury made him lose his place in the second season, in which he barely managed any playing time at all. Thankfully, he started the following season as a main striker, causing havoc for opposing defenders with his physicality, and although he only managed 5 goals in 21 appearances, his all-around play was nothing short of impressive, as he displayed a devastating blend of strength and technique to get on the radar of top-flight teams. Midway through the season, Ligue 1 side Guingamp would swoop in for his signature, and this move would turn out to be an important stepping stone in his career. Drogba didn't need much time to settle into life at his new club, scoring 3 times in 11 appearances to help them survive relegation that season. However, it was in his next season that he really picked up the pace and showed the French league the prolific striker he had become. After linking up with future Chelsea teammate Florent Malouda in attack, Drogba would go on to score a stunning 17 goals in the 2002 to 2003 season to help the club to a record 7th place finish. At this point, no one needed any more convincing that Drogba was the next big thing in front of goal. And in the summer, French giants Olympique Marseille paid £3.3 million to get one of the hottest up-and-coming strikers in the world. He was an instant hit at Marseille, and it was there that he really announced himself to the world. In his lone season with the French giants, Drogba would find the net 19 times in the league to finish the season as the 3rd highest goal scorer in Ligue 1. But his exploits were not limited to the domestic matches alone. In Europe, he'd score 5 times in the Champions League, netting against the likes of Real Madrid, Liverpool, and Inter Milan, and leading his team to a UEFA Cup final with 6 clutch goals. Drogba showed the world that he could perform on the biggest stage, and his performances particularly drew the attention of one man, manager Jose Mourinho. The new Chelsea manager insisted on signing Drogba as a key piece to his new club, and the English club forked over a jaw-dropping club record £24 million for this rising star's signature. With a price so steep, you'd expect the pressure to be immense. But Drogba played as if he did not feel pressure at all. His first goal for Chelsea was a towering header against Crystal Palace, where he effortlessly flaunted his aerial prowess. He'd then go ahead to score a few more goals that season, before being sidelined for 2 months with a muscle injury. However, he ultimately returned on time to help Chelsea lift their second ever top-flight league title and their first in 50 years. He then come up clutch once again with an extra-time goal in the League Final Cup against Liverpool to give Chelsea a 3-2 victory, and their second trophy since his arrival. Of course, his 16-goal tally that season wasn't as impressive as his standard suggests, but they certainly helped set the team on their way to securing a domestic double. Drogba started the 2005 to 2006 season by exhibiting his clutch quality and scored twice to help Chelsea see off Arsenal in the Community Shield. He'd then go on to score 14 more goals in all competitions to help Chelsea retain their Premier League title and become only the second team after Manchester United to win back-to-back top-flight titles in the Premier League era. Drogba has been impressive until now, but he was about to get even better, and what followed would take everyone by storm. In the 2006 to 2007 season, Drogba took his game to a whole new level and terrified opposing defenses with his dominance. His 33 goals that season left everyone gasping in disbelief, as they often came in the most spectacular fashion. Goals like his 35-yard screamer against Everton and the stunning strike against Liverpool where he controlled the ball in his chest with back to goal before hitting a half volley on the turn. There's not a lot you can do in certain situations against certain players because they're just too good. These were the words of Jamie Carragher, who was the defender closest to him when he scored that iconic volley. His 33 goals were spread across all competitions, with 3 coming in the FA Cup, 4 in the League Cup, and 6 in the Champions League, including a 93rd minute equalizer at Camp Nou. He also scored 20 goals past Premier League goalkeepers, including a hat-trick against Watford to claim the EPL Golden Boot. Even though Chelsea was denied a three-peat in the league by rivals Manchester United, they'd still take home the FA and League Cups, with Drogba scoring in both finals to solidify his claim as one of the very best clutch strikers in the world. His contributions didn't go unnoticed, as he was named both the Ivorian and African Player of the Year, made the PFA Team of the Year, and lost out marginally to CR7 in the PFA Player of the Year awards. In the season that followed, injuries would limit the high-flying Ivorian to some extent, but he managed to stay on the score sheet when healthy. He'd also go on to record several highs and lows. Lows like when he was sent off for slapping United's Nemanja Vidic in the 2008 Champions League final, which they lost, and highs like when he won the EPL Golden Boot for a second time after his 29 goals helped Chelsea emerge as champions in the 2009 to 2010 Premier League season. The Champions League final match in 2012 was his last match for Chelsea, in his first day at Chelsea at least, and his performance in that match sealed his status as the most clutch striker of his generation. Drogba went on to have brief stints in China, Turkey, then Chelsea again, where he returned with Mourinho to win another Premier League title. Then Montreal Impact and Phoenix Rising, before ultimately announcing his retirement in 2017 at the age of 40. While Drogba's club career was a spectacular one, he was certainly more than just a club player. He was also a legend for his Ivorian national team and an icon of African football. He helped Ivory Coast qualify for their first ever World Cup in 2006, and his goal against Argentina was his country's first ever goal in the competition. Drogba went on to captain Ivory Coast to 3 consecutive World Cup appearances and 2 consecutive African Cup of Nations finals. And his well-placed header against Brazil in 2010 saw him become the first African player to score against Brazil at the World Cup. While his 65 goals scored for the Elephants is still a record today. Off the pitch, Didier Drogba is widely known as an advocate for peace. His speech after their World Cup qualifying victory against Sudan in 2006 is famous for helping to end the civil war in his country, and he was later recognized as a Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations Development Program. His Didier Drogba Foundation does great work in improving both education and healthcare for many people in Africa. He has donated millions for activities such as building hospitals and eradicating poverty and hunger in his native country. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Also, check out the channel's main page for videos on other football stars. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.